This is the gospel of Jesus Christ according to Matthew, the 10th chapter. Jesus said to the 12, "A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher and the slave like the master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebul, how much more will they malign those of his household? So have no fear of them. For nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell it in the light, and what you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the Father. And even the hairs of your head are counted, so do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I also will deny before my Father in heaven. Do not think I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake will find it." This is the gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. So anyone who has ever dealt with children, taught, coached, led a group of kids in any way should understand that who you are talking to, what they are currently going through, how they ended up there, changes what you say. Even if you are trying to get the same point across, you say different things to different people because different people can hear the same words very differently. There were kids on my high school football team that were approached by major college scouts on a regular basis. These kids were constantly being told how talented they were and how much they could do beyond the piddling level at which we were playing the game. See, so when they made a mistake, the coaches belittled them in ways that should frankly be criminal to say to a child. But for those kids, it barely made a dent in the iron self-confidence that had been built up from years of being told how great they were. When a coach called them fat or lazy or worthless or whatever they chose to say, everyone on the team, including that kid, understood that they were still some of the best players around, if not in the nation. He was knocking down their ego so they could remember they were part of a team, even if some of the other team members weren't up to their ability level. And even they were able to hear the words that way. I, on the other hand, while not free of the wrath of a 90s football coach, I was not approached by college scouts. And so when I made a mistake, no one belittled me with that extremity, because I would hear it differently. Unlike the stars, if the coach told me that I was too fat or too slow or not good enough for the team, there was a chance I would believe it. See, who we are talking to changes the meaning of what we are saying almost every bit as much as the words we choose. So I think it is important for us to understand who is listening when Matthew chooses to include this specific bit from Jesus about the conflict that lay ahead for his disciples. Who was gathering around the reading of Matthew's gospel that hear these words in which Jesus continues from last week's warning of the threats that the disciples would encounter to now telling them that peace just may not lay ahead in their lives. I said it last week, and I'll remind you again this week. There are some arguments as to whether Matthew was written just before or just after the fall of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, but it's written about that time. So those events are either imminent or they are a fresh memory. For the people listening to this gospel, the conflicts Jesus are talking about are not warnings or threats that lay ahead. They are part of their daily lived experience. They have seen firsthand how the looming threat of a murderous empire could make people do awful things, turn against their own families. They understood what it was to worship in secret at night, still suspicious of some that have gathered that they may end up pulling a Judas and turning them in the day. You see, there was no worry of these people hearing this as a call to go out and disrupt the peace with their sword. The bigger worry was that they would see in their lives the power of the Roman sword in their own people's suspicions and divisions as proof that the gospel wasn't true. So from their perspective, 3 to 4 decades after the fact, this is a reminder. Jesus' words about disciple and teacher are a reminder that their Lord went through it. Sent to a cross by the combination of Roman power and local fear. Do you think you're better than him, these words ask? Do you think it is your task to do what he did not? Or, these words ask, should we be like him? The original audience didn't hear this as a call to arms. It was an assurance. It was an assurance that when arms were used against them, even though they may die, they would not be lost. We need to keep that context in mind because we, most of us, do not live in that reality. The empire is not threatening to destroy us. And well, some of our neighbors may be less inclined to join us in worship. None of them are afraid that if they are caught associating with us Jesus people, they may end up getting murdered for it. See, if we read these words directly into our context, they can be as out of place as the scathing insults meant for a blue-chip high school player would be if they were directed at the special needs kids that coach would let on the field for practice with us. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword is not a call to arms or even a threat. It is an assurance given to those who do not know peace. Those are the people for whom these words were recorded. Those are the people we must keep in mind when we read them. How would they hear it? Because if we know enough comfort and peace in our lives that fear of disruption sounds like a threat, we are not the intended audience. If it seems like the threat, the real problem could be avoided if we just didn't rock the boat, then we are not the intended audience. Most of us should hear these words the same way I heard Coach telling a blue chip player who ended up going pro that he was terrible. These words are meant for someone with a very different experience than us. These words are meant for people who will be called upon to die in a literal sense. Most of us, thankfully, are not in that position. Death is the cost of discipleship, but most of us will not pay it literally. But we read these words into our context in worship. And so they should tell us that those who are, those who do live without peace, those who do live in the fear of death, who choose to speak in the light, to name the empire. They are speaking in the name of our Lord. And we are not better than our master. We should be willing to die with them if needed. We should be willing to stand with our neighbors who do not know peace. Those in Gaza, those in Ukraine, those who do not know where their next meal is coming from, those neighbors in our community that live in fear that by whim a law could be changed and a simple paperwork renewal turned into losing everything. That is what happened to a pastor in our synod. Went to hand in his papers that should have been legal, and instead there was a change in the rules, and he was taken away. No idea what lay ahead in the future. His congregation now without a pastor. There are people in our own neighborhoods who do not know peace, who must live in constant fear that a disruption to their lives, even death, may come. And we are called to die with them. Too many of us feel like even naming it is a disruption too much. We are called to die, and we fear the disruption. Our master went to a cross. We are not above him. That is not a message that necessarily packs pews, but it is the cost of discipleship that has been asked since the beginning. So here is a promise. You see, when we stand with those who do not know peace and realize all the empire can do is kill us, and it can no longer make us afraid. It can no longer make us turn on one another to protect something that we thought we had. Then it can no longer stop us from living in the open the way we always wanted to live in secret. Once we accept death as the cost to be paid, then the empire has no power. Even those of us who feel that we are losing something of our lives will find that the empire is powerless, and we are free. That is the gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ.